Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. I thought I would sit down and do a video for you guys and gals. Let me give you guys a forearm shot first. Forearms are on point. All right, let's talk about this. I had this come up in the comments a couple days ago. Someone had asked the question, they're like, did Arnold Schwarzenegger just not have that great of genetics for bodybuilding? Because there's so many bodybuilders today who are bigger than him, leaner than him. There's tons of guys who are more shredded than him. He clearly couldn't have had that great of genetics. And here's where I want people to stop and think about that for a moment. And I guess the problem with this is because so many people have pushed the whole fake natty thing, and even supplement industries and other people. I mean, look how we've even seen people who admit their own stuff, who own supplement companies, right? Own supplement companies who will stand up and say, oh, well, I think this person could be natural. They'll say it in YouTube, Facebook videos. People who are very clearly not, right? They're clearly on stuff. And they'll defend them. Why? Because it's good for their business. It's good for their business for people to think, this is totally obtainable, even by people with just only slightly good genetics or whatever. And this is what they do. So you look at Arnold and you look at how he looked as a teenager. The guy had a better physique as a teenager than most guys out there who have been using stuff for 5+ years. Okay? Plenty of guys out here have been training 10+ years, quite a few years of being enhanced, who have physiques, who train for their physique. Who don't have physiques anything as good as Arnold had as a teenager while he was in high school. So what does this tell you about his genetics? His genetics were clearly fantastic for gaining muscle, for gaining proportion, symmetry, shape, all that stuff. They were clearly way above average. They were clearly top tier. And you can't deny that when you realize that look how he looked after a couple of years of training. 2-3 years of working out. Guy had a physique that was phenomenal, and he was big and jacked and everything. So anyone who wants to argue the genetics, it's ludicrous. And let's be honest, I made a video a number of years ago, and it upset people, but I'm just being truthful. And I put up a thing with like Dr. Eric Helms. This must have been 8, 9, 10 years ago. I put it up and I'm like, this is what a person can expect who's, an average Joe, average genetics, who trains really hard and really smart for a decade. This is about what's reasonable. And I had people who responded so upset, they're like, well, what's the point of even working out then? Because they're like, Eric he's not impressive in any way. But the guy had a natural pro card. And what you need to keep in mind, Eric had a PhD in nutrition, and he did his doctoral work pretty much on bodybuilding, right? Studying with bodybuilders is what he did his doctoral work on. So he pretty much has a PhD in bodybuilding, obviously knew how to train, runs a very successful coaching business with a whole team of guys who are all pretty good coaches. So clearly the training and nutrition was perfect, or close to, if not perfect, really good, right? Really good. Plus, Eric was not even a lifetime natty. He had done, admittedly, an oral-only cycle of stuff that was illegal at the time, but then later got categorized correctly as an anabolic. Right? He took legal stuff at the time. It was super droll. It was over the counter and legal in the U.S. at the time, so natural federations allowed it. He did a cycle of it, so he wasn't even lifetime natural. But you look at that and go, that is what is a reasonable expectation. Now, people say, but there could be other natties better than that, sure, but not with average genetics. They're probably very genetically gifted in certain ways, and you have to accept that. But when you did that, I had a lot of people who got upset. And then they're like, what about this influencer and that? I'm like, well, then they're probably fake natties, guys. Let's just call it like it is. Let's just be honest here. Or they're extremely genetically gifted, in which case they're still not going to be reasonable for you. So you say that and people get upset. They get really and truly upset. But guys, you got to be realistic. Because again, let's come over and use this Eric Helms, Dr. Helms is the example. Okay, this guy with average genetics, an average Joe, who applied a lot of smart knowledge and really trained and dieted correctly for 10 plus years. So then we come over with Arnold, and then people say, well, how come all these guys are way more impressive now because of more stuff? The answer is very simple. They take more. And that's where people have lost sight of it, because they've been told so much that this is what's natty, this is what's natty, that they don't understand what is obtainable natural, and they don't understand what's obtainable just with the androgen receptor. Okay, in Arnold's day, they only had access to one pathway, what most of you know as steroids, or what testosterone does, the androgen receptor. That is what they had, and they used a lot of it. Okay, but we're not in that world anymore. We haven't been for a long time. By the 90s, you saw all of these other substances thrown into the mix that have their own muscle growth and fat burning properties that are completely different categories of substances. They're completely different categories. Some of them were technically legal for a long time, really could be obtained over the counter. Some of the strongest ones. Not saying they're supplements, they're not. But I meant things like insulin, which again, extremely dangerous. But it has an enormous synergy with anabolics. So guys are getting bigger and leaner. Because keep in mind, does anyone say, oh, well, Arnold, them, they just didn't diet down as hard because they wanted to be bigger. They weren't trying to get as shredded as guys today. But does anyone think there was anything magical different? Okay, they had protein and they had the ability to reduce food intake and do cardio like everybody else to lose body fat. Okay. But realistically, what you are looking at is people are using more stuff, and they're using more amounts, and more types are being added together. So that is what you are seeing. That is the entire reason why Arnold wouldn't even be competitive as a pro bodybuilder in today's world. Okay, and even some of the natural guys and natural federations, because of their minor amount of testing, may still be using more stuff than they were then. Okay, that's your very simple explanation. And it's not genetics. You know, you get people who are like, well, what about this? Look how big Sam's, look what he's got. I don't think Sam has particularly great genetics. You didn't see any signs early on. He's just using a lot of stuff. And like I said, he won't be here in less than 10 years. Sam will not be around. And when I mean around, I'm not talking about on the internet, I mean on this earth. And we've seen that before. We've seen those trends, and we know that guys who grow as fast as he did, the amount of stuff it requires, they don't usually make it to age 30. They just don't. That's the simple reality. And you can see all the effects of that now. So it had someone even ask, well, did Sam must have better genetics? No, I don't think he does at all. I don't think they're even equal. Okay, we didn't see those results before Sam started using copious amounts of things. Pretty straightforward, guys. The difference between Arnold and the guys today is what they are putting into their body. That's it. All right, guys, well, that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys and gals next time.